In Kentucky, the poultry industry is the #1 agriculture industry. Now that is the meat part of the chicken as well as the eggs. And a lot of times when we think of spring, our backyard poultry flocks are now laying eggs, and eggs are just part of our everyday diet, and rightfully so. An egg has great nutrition. It has almost every vitamin and mineral that we need in our bodies, and it's pretty health conscious. One egg is about 70 calories, and it has 6 grams of protein in this egg. Now there's a lot of marketing strategies out there to say that one egg is better than another, depending on how they're housed and things like that. And although there might be minor differences, we can all know that when we consume an egg, it's going to be nutritious for us, packed with protein, and very light on the waistline with only 70 calories. So all that in this little shell makes nature's one of the best food. When they say the incredible edible egg, they certainly mean it. Now these eggs are fresh from my farm this morning. And one thing, if you do have backyard poultry or if you buy from another local farmer, as soon as you can, when you get the eggs, you want to make sure that they're clean. However, a lot of people might think, well, I'm just going to wash them and that's how I'm going to get my eggs clean. But eggs have a protective coating around the shell. You know, they were created to do that, and so they don't have any type of bacteria that are allowed to get in. And so they have these nice little wipes. They're called Wipe and Wash. This is just one brand, but there's several different brands of this, or you can buy an actual egg wash that has the correct detergent that will not wipe away that waxy film that protects the egg. And so you'll just get it and take your egg before you chill it, and then just take a part of that wipe if you don't have very many, and then just kind of wash it off and make sure that you get everything off of there before you chill it. When you chill the egg, those proteins kind of come together and bind a little bit more, and it can just make the dirt or straw or anything that you have on here a little bit tougher to get off of your egg. And so a lot of people ask, you know, how do you like your eggs? There's a million different ways to cook an egg, but probably one of the quickest and easiest ways that's very versatile is to hard boil an egg. And so, but there is a right way and a wrong way to do this. If I'm in a hurry, I'll just pop some eggs in a boiling pot of water and let them come to a rolling boil. However, this creates this grayish green type color on the outside of the yolk of the egg. And a lot of times we eat with our eyes. And so sometimes this can be unattractive if you're going to cut this up maybe and put it in a salad, or if you're going to make deviled eggs. You would like to have this nice yellow, pretty yolk around your egg, and it's an easy way to do that. There is a trick to that. And so what you do to get this nice colorful yellow yolk is to go ahead and get a pot, a saucepan, and put some eggs into cold water. Okay, you don't want it boiling. Just go ahead and put your eggs in cold water. You want the water to completely cover the egg, and as you can see here, some of these eggs are standing up. We want them to sink to the bottom. That's what we want them to do. And we want them completely covered. So those two are the perfect egg for us to boil. And then what we'll do is we'll put this on the burner, and then we'll bring it to a boil. And then once it comes to a boil, we'll turn the heat off and put the top on. And it depends on the size of the egg. Sometimes you can leave it, let it set for 11 to 15 minutes, and then pull it out. And one of the easiest ways to make sure that your egg peels well is once you take it, once after your 11 to 15 minutes has expired, you'll pull it off and you'll shock the eggs. You'll put some ice into the water bath and cool them down quickly. And then what we do is we'll go ahead and peel the eggs, and you'll get a nice pretty yolk like this and not green, something that you can be proud to put in your salads or serve to your guests. Now you can do this when you have time. Boil several of these. They'll last a week in your refrigerator, and so you can kind of eat on them all week long with one particular boil. And so hard-boiled eggs are very versatile, packs a lot of protein in there that you can utilize. But another quick easy breakfast to do, and something that my kids enjoy. My mother was Korean, so I didn't grow up with this tradition, but I heard about it and it sounds super fun. It's something that the kids can enjoy. They can pick out their own cookie cutter shape for this, and that's eggs in a nest, or eggs in a hole, eggs in a blanket. There's all kinds of different terminology for that, but it's basically bread and an egg. And you can sauce it up a bit by putting tomatoes, cheese. You can even have maybe a Mexican flair to it, adding some salsa, some cilantro, and maybe even some sour cream. So it doesn't have to be the same every single time, but something very quick, very easy that'll get you out the door. So I've put the pan here on medium heat, and I'm gonna go ahead and put some butter in here because we can't cook anything without butter. And we're going to go ahead and get that melted. And while we're getting that melted, we're just going to take a shape, a different cookie cutter shape. And this is some day-old bread. A lot of times if we use fresh bread, it's very soft. We want it a little bit dense. So it's a great way to utilize bread that you might have that you need to eat. And you just take it and use your cookie cutter. And if you don't have like neat shapes, you can just use your biscuit cutter to make a nice little round shape in the middle. Still works great. The only thing is you need to make sure that all your bread stays intact. You need one whole piece with this. And so even though I love my chicken cookie cutter, it wouldn't work because I wouldn't have all the edges intact for my bread. Another thing I've tried, if you don't have the bread, is to actually, especially if you have a cookie cutter like this, you can just go ahead and put that in the pan, put your egg in that, and then you'll have a chicken shaped egg. That's always fun. You know, anytime you can get your kids to eat breakfast and something so nutritious as eggs, it's always a good thing. So my butter looks melted, and that's going to give it a nice golden crust to your bread, as well as cook your egg nicely. So just put your bread in the pan. I already have an egg cracked here. I always crack my eggs in a separate bowl, just in case you'll have some extra proteins, get a shell, anything like that in there. You won't have to fish them out of a hot pan. And then you'll just gently pour in your egg into your shape. And as you can hear, it's starting to sizzle. You can put whatever you like. If you want to put salt and pepper on there, Mrs. Dash, if you're kind of watching your salt, and you can kind of hear it. Now, we at the university recommend that you do not eat raw eggs. There is a small chance that if you eat raw eggs that you could get salmonella. Now, I've not known of anybody who got sick eating raw eggs, and my daughter insists that they're the best way to eat them, so she loves to eat them. Just know the risk. I like my eggs completely cooked, and so you'll just leave it in the pan a little bit longer for that. But once we get a nice solid base on the bottom of this bread, that's when we'll flip it over. And we want to cook it on both sides well so that we don't have any of that runny egg. Now, some people say the runny egg, when you take your bread and get some of that, is the best. That's up to you. Just know the risk when you're doing that. And so handling our eggs, when we get those eggs home from the grocery store, from the farmer's market, wherever, they are a perishable product. Usually after we get them from the grocery store, the best by date is about 3 weeks after we pick them up. Farm fresh eggs, since they're straight from the farm, can last about 5 weeks in our refrigerator. And so 5 weeks in the refrigerator, still goodness. But let's say that you have some extra and you don't want to get rid of them, you don't just want to throw them out. Eggs freeze really well, and so you can take those, put them, and go ahead and beat the egg white and yolk together, put them in an ice cube tray or in an individual freezer safe container, pop those into the freezer, and then whenever you need an egg for baking, you can pull those eggs out and use them, and they'll be great for up to a year in the freezer. So you don't have to waste this nice precious protein that we have in an egg. Okay, so if you can look, it's kind of firmed up. We can see that it's turned white, and so it's time to flip our eggs in a nest. And so we have that nice crunch around the crust of the bread. Also, the egg is well cooked, and so we'll just cook this for a couple minutes on this side. And like I say, you can put fresh herbs on there. You know, we talked about Esley's and fresh herbs. No better way to add some freshness and flavor to this eggs in a nest by adding some of those. Also some cheese, because how can you go wrong with cheese? Cheese and eggs is great. And I also have one plated up over here. And when you get finished actually making your egg, I always like to toast the extra bit of bread. It's probably one of my favorite parts because it's what I save to put my strawberry jam or jelly on, or honey. And so it makes a great addition to the plate as well as to your belly. So if you have any questions about any of these recipes or the nutritional value of eggs, make sure you contact your local extension office. Thanks for watching.